Sorry, my daughter was fussing. Hello, and I am back. Oh, Jesus. She is overtired right now, and her dad is trying to put her to sleep. Anyways, I'm in my daughter's room. I would show y'all, but it's a hot mess in here because we're trying to transition smaller clothes out, bigger clothes in, and we have tons of clothes because my daughter is overly spoiled. Anyways, today I'm going to be telling my labor and delivery story. I don't know why I just did that face, but there was nothing about my labor and delivery story. I don't know why they tell you to have a birth plan because it never works out that way. I mean, you always end up, sometimes I guess some people, they have a birth plan, they follow it to a T. That didn't happen for me at all. I'm going to start from the beginning, which is Friday, September 9th, 3 o'clock in the morning. I woke up and thought that I had maybe peed a little bit on myself, and my poise pad was wet. It wasn't soaked, but it was pretty wet, and I was like, well, what the heck? And I smelt something that smelled kind of like a sweet type smell, so I was like, well, what the heck is going on? Thought nothing of it, went back to sleep, got up for work, went to work. I'm a child care provider, as I've said before, and I take care of my sister's kids, and I'm on the phone with her as I'm walking the kids to the bus, and she's telling me, well, that's your amniotic fluid. And I'm like, no, it's not. I'm not. And because I explained to her that all morning it seemed like I was smelling that smell every time I went pee, and I was a tad weirded out by it, and she was like, no, that's your amniotic fluid. You need to get the kids to the bus and then go to the hospital. So, and she was like, and if I have to get off early, I'll get off early. So I go to the hospital, and they tell me, oh no, you're not leaking any amniotic fluid. They did some tests where they take some Q-tip and they put it in you, and they like twirl it around and stuff, and they take it out, and then they put it in something and test it and tell you if you're leaking or if your water broke, and they said that no. Well, the day goes on and it's still continuing, and then I go to bed at night, and 10 something at night I'm sleeping and my water just gushes, just popped basically. And it just so happens that that night was the one night that my man decided to go play pool. So I text him and I tell him, I think my water broke, like for real. And so he calls me and he's like, what's going on? I'm like, my water broke. Like, we gotta go. So he hurries up and he comes home, and we go to the hospital, and they do the little amniotic test again, and sure enough, my water had broke. Now, mind you, I was only dilated 1. So, or no, at first I wasn't dilated at all. Actually, I take that back. My cervix was softening, but I was not dilated. And so they're like, well, here's the options because your water broke. We can start you, start inducing you tonight, or we can let you rest and then we can induce you in the morning. Now, I was having contractions, but they weren't consistent. So I decided that I wanted to rest, and I decided I didn't want to do Pitocin to start off with. I wanted to try the pill because it was supposed to be a bit milder. So I tried to sleep, but of course I couldn't sleep. So yeah, I basically was up all night. I barely slept, and then they started a pill. I can't remember what the pill was called, but they gave me some pill, and I had to take it every, I think, 3 hours, and I did pretty good. for, I'm going to say, from Friday night till I think it was like 5 o'clock maybe in the afternoon on Saturday was when I finally had said that I needed something for pain, because the contractions for hours, the contractions were very, very strong, and they were very close together, and I was not getting a break in between. And I basically started freaking out, and I'm like, okay, no, this ain't working. Like, and that was why I didn't want to be induced, because they say that when you're induced, the pain is just hits you much harder, but when you're not, it gradually builds up to where you can tolerate it when you go natural. So they come in and they check me and they say, well, you're only dilated 1, so we're not giving you an epidural, basically. And I'm like, what? So then I'm like, okay, well, y'all got to give me something. So they end up giving me fentanyl, but my boyfriend had expressed to them that I have had taken pain medication in the past, like morphine and stuff, through my Crohn's, and it never works. And sure enough, it didn't work. All it did was make me throw up. So then the midwife comes in and she's like, we're going to go ahead and give you the epidural because something's not working here. So they give me the epidural, and of course I'm feeling a lot better, although I felt freezing and I was shaking. And within a couple hours, I was dilated 7. So basically, how it was explained to me was my body could not relax to dilate. So the contractions were coming on too strong and coming too fast, and they were lasting too long, and my body wouldn't dilate because I could not relax. So once I had the epidural, things kind of like went along. So then I finally was able to try to rest, but the excitement made it to where I couldn't. I think I slept maybe 3 hours from Friday night to Sunday morning. And then finally they came in and they were like, well, you're fully dilated. Do you want to start pushing? I'm like, can I please just rest a little bit longer, because I was sleeping. So that was when I got my 3-hour nap in. And then at like 5:45, they said, nope, we want you to start pushing. So I started pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. About, I'm going to say 3 hours and 45 minutes goes by, and I finally am like, well, actually after 2 hours, I'm like, she's stuck, because I was in pain. Like, I had the epidural, but I had so much pain in my bottom and at the very top of my tailbone. And they were like, well, yeah, she's stuck at your tailbone right now. So my daughter was stuck there for a good probably hour, and then I got her down to where she got stuck at my pubic bone. Now at this point, we were under the impression that she was facing up, and that's why she was stuck. But that was not the case, but that'll come later. So next thing you know, 4 hours has went by, and I finally get to the point where I'm like, okay, is there anything that you guys can do to help my daughter come out? This isn't working. And they're like, they start talking about all these options and talking about vacuums and forceps and all this other stuff. But they're telling me, but you're doing really good. Mind you, I did do very good. I didn't yell, I didn't scream. I was drenched with sweat. I was not really doing anything besides focusing on breathing and pushing, because I was in a lot of pain too at the same time, because she had gotten stuck twice, and I was just overwhelmed at that point. And they tell me, but you're doing really good. And so at this point, her dad became very stressed, so he had left the room to go out and smoke really quick, and as soon as he left the room, her head started to come out, which we were shocked by. So because of the size of how big they thought she was, they had told me once her head was out that I need to focus and pay attention, and because they were going to have to guide me through, because they don't want her shoulders to get stuck or anything like that. So mind you, let me tell you what, when her head started to come out, that ring of fire thing, that is true. There does feel like a ring of fire, for real fire. But anyways, and then I I also felt ripping. So I was like, oh my gosh. And then they had told me to push again, but what ended up happening was I pushed again and she literally just, the rest of her just came out, which we were shocked by. And the thing about it is that my daughter was sideways inside of me. Somehow she had turned to the side. So that was why my birth was so difficult with her. She was sideways. And then when she came out, the doctor said, well, the midwife and the nurses said they'd never seen anything like it. She, I guess, twisted her whole body as she came out like a worm. And they had told me that if she came out and she wasn't crying, that they were going to have to take her over to whatever. And she came out and just started screaming and opened up her eyes and was looking around and was trying to hold her head up already. She weighed 7 pounds, 9 ounces, was 21 inches long, and cute as a button. My little munchkin. But, yeah. I will say this. When it comes down to having babies, like, yeah, I have a birth plan, but sometimes that just does not work out. At one point, I was thinking to myself, I should have just got a C-section, but I'm going to tell you this. Healing was, whew, because I ended up having a second-degree tear. I ended up getting 10 stitches. I had hemorrhoids so bad that my whole bottom was sticking out. Like, it was just crazy. At one point during my pushing, which I forgot to mention, I had asked them if they could put an ice pack on my bottom because it felt like my bottom was going to explode. And I reached back there and felt, because it just felt like something wasn't right, and it felt like it was sticking out like that far. Like, seriously, no joke. But I will say this, once she was out, it was like I forgot about everything. But then at one point she started sewing me up and I felt it and I was like, hold up, wait a minute. What are you doing down there? Because that hurts. And she was like, oh, I'm just doing your stitches. You can feel that? I'm like, yeah, I can feel that. So then she had to like put some more numbing stuff down there. But anyways, in a nutshell, that is my labor and delivery story. I'm not sure if I left anything out, but my daughter is fussing, so I got to go. So thank you for watching. Your girl Sharice here.